one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, but today we are starting the spooky season, this Halloween season, and although we might have a couple of days where we may not be on because of life's inconveniences, we are covering one of my favorite, I would have to say, mainstream spooky film, based on the Harvey Comics cartoons of Casper the Friendly Ghost, called Casper. And it was directed by Brad Silberling, and it was definitely heavily produced by Steven Spielberg. And it stars it stars Bill Pullman, Christina Ricci, Kathy Moriarty, Eric Idle from the Monty Python gang, among others. And let's see what IMDb says about the film. An afterlife therapist and his daughter meet a friendly young ghost when they move into a crumbling mansion in order to rid the premises of wicked spirits. So, going around with first impressions. Sure. Once we get to that, I guess this Omnitrix bear asks, I do have a question about a scene involving Fatso. So what is that question?
We've got some audience actually.
I guess so.
Huh.
We just began. We normally go into our first impressions, but why don't you ask that question, Mr. Bear, and then I'm sure we can answer it during the show. So, but
Cool.
In any case, let's go around with our first impression. Starting with you, Boris. Was this the first time watch for you?
Actually, no, this is not the first time I watched this movie, but the first and probably, okay, maybe I saw it once or twice, but it was both a long time ago in my early childhood, so I barely remembered anything from it. So now when I watched it, most of it was kind of new to me. um, yeah, and I really enjoyed this movie. It was a lot of fun, a little different maybe from what I expected uh, after watching those Harvey Toons sketches with Casper. Uh, there was a little bit more spookiness than I expected, but of course that's not a bad thing, not for me at least. uh, and yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. A good child-friendly comedy with some mild elements of horror, maybe. Uh, So yeah, I'm glad I finally watched it again after such a long time.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, even to your slightly adult years. Uh,
Well,
um,
yes,
but is that pretty much it for your first impressions then?
I guess so. I mean, why wouldn't I enjoy a movie like this? It's not actually the first time I found myself fond of a movie that was intended for children.
But you'll probably be surprised to hear that at the time that this came out, uh, amongst the reviewers of the time, uh, there were some mixed feelings about it because of how dark it went at the time.
Oh,
Because Casper was supposedly much more friendlier and he was more cartoonish, and I guess the world wasn't entirely ready for a darker take on it. So,
but
uh, heading
what
over,
was? Okay, sorry.
heading over to Tammy. Was this a first time watch for you?
No, it was not the first time. I don't remember the first time. I don't know if the first time I watched it was with you or not, but I've watched it more than once, definitely. It's always a lot of fun. So Casper's just so cute.
Oh,
If I ran into a ghost like that, I don't think I would have the same reaction that these people did of screaming and running away. He's just maybe his uncles would make me run and scream away. Run away. But Casper himself, if I ran into him, I don't think I would. I'd be like, oh. So, but yeah, it is a
yeah.
lot. It's a lot of fun. It's got a few little dark points in it and stuff, and
Can you tell why I chose this after your choice last week?
I could.
no.
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that part eventually. So,
Oh, because there's a little sword fight in it.
there's a little sword
Yes.
fight, and they say all for one and one for all. Get your pants
Yeah.
before they fall.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I figured it out at that
Which,
point.
spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, before we actually get into to the whole plot line.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Now, I actually saw this in the theaters. Believe it or not, I'm not sure. I'm thinking I saw it with my mentor that I had provided for me by the state. I can't be entirely certain, but I'm pretty sure I saw this in the theater at the time, and that was 1995. I was born in '84, so 6 + 5. I was 11 when I saw this, and at the time, I actually thought that on the big screen, it was definitely a lot darker than the Casper cartoons that I remember. Um, but I enjoyed the look of the mansion. I thought Christina Ricci, even though she's like in her teenage years as an actress, I thought she was starting to look pretty. I'm not going to say hot because I still remember her as Wednesday with pale skin and almost next to no upper carriage. So, but yeah, I enjoyed this movie to the full extent that it was trying to do. There was definitely some comedy between the three ghosts that seemed to be more troublesome than anything else. And at the time, as a first, uh, this was the first movie that ever used an entirely CGI'd character as a lead role. So that was a first. So, and plus the CGI was like leagues ahead of its time when they projected it to the big screen like this. So that's one thing that the reviewers didn't have anything bad to say about the effects because the ghosts look pretty good, So, and but yeah, let's get into the the plot. So, okay, I do believe that we have a couple of kids from what we later learn is Friendship, Maine. Uh, Going into the Whipstat Manor because evidently it's known as the local ghost house, and you know the place that everyone's frightened to go into and all that jazz. So they these two kids want to go and get a snapshot of themselves. The only thing is they don't expect running into Casper, and I I I think that those kids overreacted to Casper because he's not that scary, you know. Uh, and he just always wanted to make friends and stuff like that, and everyone just kept running away. So, um, what do y'all think about that very beginning part?
I think they did overreact because that Casper's cute. If it would have run into the other three that we'll be talking about, if they would have run into them, I could have seen them running away screaming. But Casper, really?
Indeed, although they were children, so I guess maybe
But he
that's
even
why.
said, "Don't scream," and and he talked in such a cute little voice and everything, and
Ah, well, yeah, true.
So, oversensitive.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so after that beginning scene, then we're brought to the room of a lawyer, and to be honest, it's kind of funny. Um, Ben Stein shows up as the lawyer, and he's got this law. He 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 was one that they used for the Clear Eye, Dry Eye commercials, and he also had his own show called Win Ben Stein's Money for a little bit. And his voice was so long, drawn out, boring that it was comical to some people. Um, and I think he was used relatively a lot during the 90s. I remember him showing up as the mask guy in The Mask when in Jim Carrey's The Mask. I think I also remember him showing up in Bueller's uh, Ferris Bueller's Day Off too, um, and a bunch of others. But uh, he basically is there to read the will for Miss Kerrigan, who is waiting to hear the results of what her recently deceased father has left her, and you hear all kinds of like charities getting like multi-millions of dollars, and she gets bored with that, and she's there with her stooge, um, who she calls Dips, I believe. But that
Yes.
character is played by Eric Idle, who is one of the Monty Python characters that you might have seen on the British Monty Python's Flying Circus and in
Oh,
many of the
uh,
Monty Python movies.
he was also in 102 Dalmatians as Wadsworth, the talking parrot, the talking macaw.
Yes, he was. So, but yeah, so she gets bored with whatever he's naming off, and she's like, "Get to the point. I want to know what. Oh, I know what. Want to know what the stiff left me." So
This is stiff.
yeah. So he basically says something like snakes. Forget exactly what else he says, but then he's like Whipstaff Manor in Maine, and she gets pissed because for reasons.
He also mentioned dowels.
Yes, owls, snakes, and one more thing I think he mentioned, but
Maybe cats. Not sure.
bobcats, bobcats he mentioned, but
Oh.
she gets pissed. She throws the manila envelope into the fire, and Dips is like, "Hey, Carolyn, the deed's in there." And as he's going and poking through the fire, he
I guess his computer messed up, but yeah,
I thought it was
fire,
something
and
on my end.
as he's trying to retrieve the deed, they see something about a treasure. Then all of a sudden, everything changes. So
Oh yes.
the next thing we know is,
And we don't know what that treasure is until much later into the movie.
they saw a drawing or what? Huh?
I was saying,
He saw a drawing that says he saw a drawing that they saw a drawing of something about her treasure. So then all of a sudden she became interested.
yes.
So of course now they head out there, and um when they get out there, her sidekick has got his hand all bandaged up from burning his fingers trying to get this stuff out of the fire, and they're holding a lighter up for light. He ends up starting his bandaged hand on fire, which I thought was funny.
Yes, it was.
And then they hear a noise or whatever, and Casper says hello, and they're talking back and forth with him, but they can't see him, you know. And they're asking, "Are you the caretaker?" Well, kind of. Are you this? Are you a squatter? Well, no. Are you this?
Squatter.
Well, no. And finally, they say, "Well, you need to come down here." And when he does, he gets the same reaction that everybody else does to him. They scream and they're running out.
Ghost.
Yep.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah, that was funny. I remember similar things happening in Harvey Toons. Like I said, I used to watch that as a teenager.
no, I think they come back. I believe they come back with the priest because
Ah.
they haven't met the uncles yet. The priest is the one that ends up meeting the uncles first, I believe.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
I don't think I think they only met Casper. So they think it's gonna be real easy to get rid of Casper but then the priest goes in and it's not just Casper.
Yeah, and the priest is kind of funny. If I remember correctly, I believe the priest that particular character actually first showed up on an SNL sketch. So I think they used that priest to go and use like, it's no problem. It's a piece of cake. So he goes in, and of course you hear some noise, and he comes out with his head on backwards, and they asked him, "So what happened?" He's like, "It was no problem. It was a piece of cake." You know?
Yeah, his head backwards, and I think his clothes were covered in vomit, and I think that was a reference to The Exorcist for people who know that movie.
Well, it could have been, but in any case, shortly after that, apparently they had also called the Ghostbusters, which Ray comes out and he's like, "Who you gonna call? Somebody else." So that was a play on the Ghostbusters and stuff at the time. So I thought that was kind of hilarious, even though I know the Ghostbusters could have definitely taken care of the situation. Uh,
um, yeah.
we know in our hearts that the Ghostbusters are better than that. But they did that for reasons so that our main characters could, our main like human characters, fleshies, could take care of the matter for. But and I guess it's Casper who's evidently watching television at the time. And of course, you see Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He's playing, and I thought that was a little bit comical because Mr. Rogers was always talking to the audience as if they were like uh, children, anyways, and he's like, "You gotta feel good," or how do you know that type of message. But he changes the channel, and I guess that's when there was a newscast about Dr. Harvey and how he's a kind of a a ghost therapist, and he talks about how ghosts always have unfinished business, and he stresses that most of them are harmless. They're just looking for a way to finish their unfinished business and stuff like that. And they go into a little bit of a news segment talking about or talking to his daughter Kat, and she's just trying to get the news people out of her face because she's. It looks like it's another one of those first day of school things, and you can tell that you know uh, for his work, they've got to move around a lot, which can be tough on kids and teenagers, and you can obviously tell that uh, her mother and his wife, uh, uh, his wife's passing is still fairly recent, you know. Uh,
Yes.
so Dr. Harvey is on the lookout for his wife because he thinks that she still has unfinished business. So, um, but it's Casper who uh, immediately follows the electricity wires to Miss Kerrigan's hotel and shows her the news segment, and she at the end of it, she watching it, she's like, you know what, get me on the phone to Santa Fe, because that's where apparently they were at the time. So it's then that we see Dr. Harvey, played by Bill Pullman, and Kat. Um, they're in a station wagon with all their valuables because they don't really settle down for very long. And of course, the station wagon is always seems to be the vehicle of the time because that seems to be the grocery go-getter, the vacation vehicle of the late 80s to early 90s. So um, that was a very popular um, vehicle to show at times. I think the National Lampoon's vacation movies often used that vehicle. Um, Pretty sure John Candy used it in The Great Outdoors and things of that nature. But I guess they have a moment where she's like she's upset with her dad because she wishes that he would just realize that there's no such thing as ghosts, and I guess he kind of promises her, okay, you know what? After this next one, if I don't find anything, then I'll stop everything. I'll quit, and then we'll settle down. So he pinky swears with her, which at the time the pinky swear thing was a cute little thing between like father daughter and friends and stuff like that. If you swore to someone, you pinky swear, and that meant something. It was like your word, you know.
Whew, yeah.
But it wasn't exactly like playing Thumb Wars. So, but so they eventually arrive in Friendship, Maine, and of course, Miss Kerrigan shows up, um, and she is introduced to catch him and her and Dips kind of like manhandled her chin a little bit, and then they basically she basically asked him how long it was going to take, and he was like, you know what, it could take several months, maybe years. You know what? No, this is what's going to happen. I can understand. Days? Yes. Weeks? Maybe. Months? No. Years? Forget it.
Yeah, she was kind of funny actually.
Yeah, she was a little bit. And she had that voice that you could almost kind of tell that she smoked a lot. Because it was a little bit gravelly. But in any case, so that's when Dr. Harvey and Kat bring in their stuff. Well, he gets a check from her to start out, and they start to move their stuff into the home. That's kind of like, I got a girl in my house, and she's in my bed. Yes, they're here because the whole reason why he sent out showed Kerrigan, uh, these two is because of Kat. He kind of had love at first sight for a ghost. So,
yes.
of course, the initial thing of trying to introduce himself, well, he kind of scared the crap out of them. Which that's another thing. This guy is this dude is supposedly like a ghost therapist. He's scared of the fucking ghost, you know, and whatnot.
Yeah, that's actually what I was left wondering about too.
Like
Although,
that part I couldn't believe. He supposedly had all this experience with making sure ghosts got out of houses and stuff like that, and yet the first real ghost he actually came across in this house, he was like, "Let's get the fuck out of here." You know?
Well, I think maybe that was the first time he encountered a ghost with his daughter being around. So I think he just wanted to take her to a safe place before confronting the ghosts, just to be sure.
I actually don't think he ever saw a ghost before, with it, which is why that reaction is the way it was. You know, like an experienced ghost therapist should have at least seen a ghost before and been able to react calmly. You know what I mean?
Well, kind of, yeah.
I mean, what do you think, Tammy? Do you think that he should have, uh, being the so-called experienced ghost therapist? Do you think his reaction should have been that way?
No, I think he should have maybe been a little bit surprised, but not not like he's scared to death. You know.
Right.
Well, I think he was, yeah, it was a little bit illogical, but as far as I understood, he was more scared for his daughter than for himself.
Yep. So
But then again, he did say ghosts cannot hurt you, so he shouldn't have been so afraid for her either.
yep. So in any case, so it looks like okay. So Casper, all he wants is he wants to, have friends, and he in I guess he kind of scared Cat, and she kind of fainted, and so he gathered some water and splashed her face, and she still got scared, and so she screamed, and their father walked in, and he looked under the bed, and then he opened up the closet, and he was like, "See, there are no ghosts." And then, of course, there was Casper, and
Yes.
that's when he got scared and threw her over his shoulder and started running. Threw her into a closet, and it's about that time that I think Tammy, you were alluding to this earlier, while I was having technical difficulties, but this is about the time that the other three ghosts that apparently are considered his uncles, Casper's uncles, which I'm wondering if they were really his uncles or just ghosts who had actually just kind of planted themselves in the house.
I don't know. He calls them his uncles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we never got to hear about any connection between them and Casper's father or mother.
But yeah, and those ghosts are named Fatso, Stinky, and Stretch.
Oh, yeah, and this guy in our comments, he asked something about Fatso.
Yep, and I will get to that in a little bit, because that scene is not up yet. So,
well, true.
but we have an initial meeting between Dr. Harvey and the three ghosts, and they end up having a sword fight with plungers and umbrellas and vacuums, and ultimately at the end of the we have a moment where this is the one where I this is the reason why I chose one of the reasons why I chose this movie after having watched The Three Musketeers from Disney, is because there is a moment where the three ghosts end up kind of saying exactly what the Three Musketeers actually say, except they have a comedy twist at the end of it. One for all and all for one. Catch your pants before they fall. So,
Yes.
and then of course the doctor then backs up the stairs and realizes that the old Hoover vacuum or whatnot possibly might help. So he sucks the ghosts inside the bag, and you can hear them arguing with each other. And so the next morning, Kat wakes up and she finds her way to the breakfast table, which Casper's Casper basically wraps himself around her and says, "I'm friendly, but please don't scream. My uncles will probably hear you and all that jazz." And so he finally calms her down, and she tells him he's so cold and all that jazz. So they start to warm to each other. And so he makes breakfast for her. I believe he makes a stack of pancakes, takes the pulp out of the orange juice, and seems like it's going to be an okay breakfast. Her father walks in. He's a little leery of Casper, which he shouldn't be if he were an experienced ghost therapist, but he is.
But he doesn't, at this point, he doesn't realize that Casper is not like the other three.
Yeah.
So,
Well, okay, yeah.
and Casper all tries to make them welcome, because he really wants to be friends with Kat. He wants to be friends with Dr. Harvey and all that jazz. So, even asked if he wants like a paper or something like that. So while he goes and gets the paper, that's when you hear da 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 da, and you hear some sound like an airplane, like it's beginning to land, or something like a helicopter or warcopter or something like that, and that's when Fatso, Stretch, and Stinky show up to the breakfast table. And of course, Stretch seems to be the leader of them all. So he's like, I love the smell of plushies in the morning. And of course, they demand their food, which it looks like it's a bunch of desserts, which you can see that they're a bunch of pigs as they're tumbling the food down. You can clearly see the food tumbling inside their ghostly facade, and it all lands on the floor. And Casper's all trying to clean the stuff up because the Dr. Harvey and Kat are guests, and Stretches and Fatso and Stinky, they're taking offense because they used to be able to eat off the floor. Apparently, that was a thing that they did, which just the sound of that makes you go, why would you eat something off the floor? So, what do y'all think about the second meeting of the ghosts?
Yeah, it was funny, and also, why should they even be concerned about hygiene since they are already dead?
What do you think, Tammy?
about what?
About this second meeting of the ghosts in the breakfast room.
Those ghosts are just nasty and rude and everything, So, and they're very mean to Casper.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
We, up until this point, we've they've we've seen them do many and not nice things to Casper all the way up to this point, and you know all they want to do is cause problems. So
Hmm, indeed.
yeah, so I think at this point, he, the father, he unlocks Cat out of the kitchen and tries to come to an understanding with the three uncles, you know, and um, uh, he says that he's gonna put them, he's gonna do like the therapy thing with them, you know, because they clearly have unfinished business. And while Kat is locked out, she ends up exploring more of the house with Casper and asking him all kinds of questions and everything, you know. And
Yes.
then you see the father and the three, like he's having a therapy session like in his office with them, you know. And before he actually gets into the office, they're going through his belongings and pretending, well, not totally pretending, but they're pretending like they're throwing them up in the air and pretend like they're shooting them, shooting like these pictures and things like that, and they actually do break, you know. So it's not like totally pretending, but you know,
Spudo.
right. And when they get to the picture of his wife, um, he manages to get that away from him, and then he makes the mistake of letting them know that he's looking for her, and they play into the ghosts play into it and trick him. They make him think that they can contact her, and they act like they're gonna be decent and everything else. And Fatso goes because the other two tell him to go find her and bring her back. And you get this whole hyped up thing or whatever, and he thinks when he's gonna open these doors that his deceased wife is gonna be there, her ghost. And it's Fatso, and it's just them playing another joke on him. So,
Yeah, that's the question that we were asked.
what do you mean?
Uh, Someone in the comments asked a question, and Dave said we would answer it when we get to that scene. Now we are there. This guy asked, how did you feel about the scene where Fatso pretended to be Amelia?
I thought that was just mean.
Uh, yeah, yeah, pretty much. I didn't expect they would do that.
Expect that they would do what?
Pretend to be
Uh,
his dead wife.
Oh, yeah, that was part of the question. That
I'm on my iPad, so I don't see these comments. Okay, or questions.
ah well, there was a question that was asked. How do we feel about him, Fatso, actually showing up as his dead wife? At the time, I didn't really think nothing of it. I thought he was trying to be funny. If you really had that much time on your hands, you would think that it was kind of a gender thing and kind of almost inappropriate. But um, the film was trying to cross a few lines. I think that would leave it a little bit more than a family film.
Oh, we
I
could
didn't really
say
get that.
so.
I didn't really get that from that. I thought of it as he dressed up like a a woman to
Be
try
funny.
to try to be well. They thought it was funny, but it actually was actually mean. The ghost thought it was funny.
Well, yeah, it was in fact mean and spirited, and I'm not sure audience-wise whether that at the time might have been like kosher, because I believe that was at the time when people were starting to be woke, and you know,
I
At
guess I
that
didn't
time
think of it.
already,
I didn't think
well,
of it as that because I, he was just dressing up like you would dress up for Halloween or whatever. He was just dressing up to, you know,
my
it's.
man. I actually got a kick out of it. I wasn't incensed or insulted or anything like that. I think it was just a moment. I mean, it was more insulting to Dr. Harvey because they were playing around with him a lot, but mostly because they were so used to scaring people out of the home and whatnot. They weren't used to human contact being around, or humans in general. And I think they were actually somewhat dealing with it because Casper was so open to it, even though they treated Casper like shit.
yes, pretty much.
Plus, they were pretty much bored out of their minds, so I think that's another reason why they kind of accepted the two. And then, of course, they alluded to the fact that they might actually know his wife. Um, and technically, that plays into something that happens later, anyways. So, um, but so okay, there are some protagonists other than the ghosts in here. There's a brother sister type duo, I think. I think they're brother and sister, and they she ends up having to go to school in Maine, and Casper comes along with her for the ride. Uh, and she's introduced to the class. She introduced is that she lives at the Whipstat Manor, and everyone turns and looks at her like, "You actually live there?" And of course, while this is all going on, Casper is tying the shoelaces of every kid in the room. And I forget the name of the girl, but she actually acts like kind of a prudish, Richie girl. Um, so kind of like the rich white girl in class that apparently her daddy just finished this home or whatnot. So she wants them all to have the Halloween party, which has been set back because of school budget. Okay. But which is why they're looking for another avenue so that they can have their Halloween party
Well,
soon.
there's repairs being done on the school, and the repairs won't be done in time for Halloween.
So they start looking for other avenues. And the girl suggests that they go have it at her daddy's place that has just been finished. But Kat has mentioned that she lives at this really creepy mansion, and a kid pipes up and says, "You know what? It just so happens that she has this really cool, creepy mansion, and it would be perfect for the Halloween atmosphere. And so the very, very self-righteous girl stands up. All right, let's put it to a vote. Who wants to have it in my place? No hands raise up. With staff, all hands raised. So, meanwhile, Dr. Harvey, he's starting the process of crossing over with the ghosts, somewhat, but they end up, the ghosts end up taking him to what they call happy hour. And while they take him out, Kat has explored the mansion somewhat and found all of Casper's like toys that he had when he was a kid, and and he starts to remember everything. As you know, as it progresses, we begin to learn a little bit about like his backstory, at least the backstory that they're giving him. We never really got a backstory in the cartoons. But this backstory is a little dark, where we find out that his father, after he died, like obsessed about the death of his child, and eventually we found out that he was locked up in a state asylum, and people gathered against him and basically called him insane. But before he had that happen to him, he created this machine called the Lazarus, which apparently brings ghosts back to life. So,
yeah, although that left me wondering why he didn't actually bring Casper back to life.
well, he probably never saw his son as a ghost. You know,
Who?
he was locked up in an insane asylum. You know.
Uh, so they locked him up before he could use the machine.
Yeah. Didn't you see the papers and didn't you hear what happened?
Uh, uh, yeah, I forgot the details of that.
But yeah, Casper also found a dress that his mom had and let Kat wear it for the party. But meanwhile, Kerrigan and Dips overhear all of this. Also, they're like, you know, when you hire a guy to get the ghosts out of the house, what does he do? He gets the ghosts out of the house. So they actually follow Kat and Casper, and that's when they hear about this treasure and this vault, which Casper actually says the line that was on that paper: Whipstaff doth the treasure hold, buccaneers and buried treasure. Whipstaff doth this treasure hold. And so, of course, Kerrigan is thinking that there's treasure behind the vault, treasure that supposedly is hers. And of course, they also steal the ghost liquid that would. It's the last liquid that the machine has, and there's only enough for one. You know, and so Kerrigan and Dips they go off, and actually she attempts to try to kill Dips, but in chasing Dips down, she ends up running her car into a tree and drops off a cliff. And then, of course, there's a funny moment there where he's like, Kerrigan, you bitch.
Oh yeah, there
And
are some good spoodaus there.
yeah, and then he turns around. And he's like, "Not so fast, little man. The bitch is back." And so you see, then you see her come out of the Lazarus contraption. Well, before that, Casper had actually started to actually go inside the machine, and before anything could happen, the jar of liquid was taken, and she opened up the machine, and he looked like sunny side up bakes. And so she used one blowing things, and his ears popped later. And meanwhile, all this was happening. I guess Dr. Harvey was with the ghosts, and they wanted to off him. And I guess he was really drunk, and he was singing "That's Life" by Frank Sinatra, and then he got a little personal, and he told the ghosts that he loved them, and then they were like, "Ah, we can't off him now," and they let go of their weapons. And of course, he walked towards the doors and dropped off wherever they were, and he died.
Spoodao.
Yeah. And then you see him flying down, and he's making all kinds of jokes. He doesn't even know who his daughter is, but then she reminds him by making that pinky promise, with him, and he's like, "Aw." So Casper's like, "Well," and before that happens, Kerrigan, well, she grabs the treasure. And she's all like hooting that she's got my treasure, she's got this, she's got that, and then they reminded her about her unfinished business. What do you mean? I have no unfinished business. And that's when the lights, start throughout her. Well, now that she had everything that she wanted, she has no unfinished business, so she can cross over. So now she's trying to, backstep a little, and she's like, "I was wrong. I had unfinished business. You tricked me." Ah! And she disappears. And of course, Dip actually shot up out of the place, and he dropped the liquid, and Casper then also then places her father inside the machine because he needs it more, and because of that selfless act, it's then that Amelia comes down as the angel that she is and gives him a kind of Cinderella moment, and she gives him till 10 o'clock to be able to go to the party as his real self, as human. And he complains, "You know what? Cinderella had till midnight." But Cinderella wasn't 12 years old.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she appears to Dr. Harvey, James, in other words. And she basically tells him, "I know you've been looking for me, but because you and Catherine loved me so much, I had no unfinished business." And so they kind of have a moment, and then of course you see Casper in human form heading down the stairs, and he ends up being kind of her date. And in order to kind of tell her that he was Casper, he was like, "Can I keep you?" and they kind of float around for a little bit, and of course they kiss at the end of the dance, and then of course the hour chimes, and he turns into a ghost. He turns around and he's like, boo, and that's when everyone screams and runs out. But also, apparently the two brother and sister try to climb in a window, and they think that they're going to crash the party, but Fatso and Stinky and Stretch end up showing up to them and scaring the bejesus out of them, and they scream and they have a Spudow moment.
Yeah, although the party ends up being crashed anyway, since everyone gets scared of Casper.
Yeah, but that part where they fell and he was dragging her ass out the place, that was just classic, and everyone laughed at that. And of course, after that, Daddy Harvey, he was like, the party's just getting started. Hit it, boys! And that's when we hear Little Richard's song about Casper the Friendly Ghost. Where you hear the Casper the Friendly Ghost. So, and of course, Daddy Harvey and Kat and Casper, they're dancing, and that's about when the movie ends. So, did anyone have anything to say about any of the scenes that I kind of described?
Who nothing specific comes to mind.
Alrighty. Well, I guess we're to production. So, Tammy, what did you think about production?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, you said that this was the first film that they used CGI for, right? At the
Well,
beginning.
it was the first film that a CGI character had a lead in any kind of a film.
So yeah, I thought they did. I thought it was done pretty good.
And much
we had. I believe we had some films before this with cartoon characters, yes, but they weren't done in the same way. They weren't done as ghosts, you know.
Well,
They were
yeah,
more done as actual cartoon characters,
like actual animation.
right? So yeah,
These,
I think they
these
did
were
a good job.
CGI. Yeah, these were CGI animated ghosts. So, but what did you think about the production overall, Boris?
I also think it was pretty good. Okay, the CGI ghosts maybe looked a little bit cartoonish, but then again, if they didn't look exactly the way they did, that just wouldn't be Casper and his uncles.
There's nothing wrong with cartoonish because they were cartoons to begin with.
Yeah.
But I also think that the production was pretty darn good for its time. The CGI was ahead of its time. It even says so on Wikipedia and all that jazz. That no one had done this before, or like this, and it was definitely something that showed what CGI could do. And I thought that was actually pretty darn good. Much of the set was actually in studio. In fact, the Whipstaff Manor, that was a fictional manor. I'm not exactly sure how they did the exterior, but the interior and all that was done for the most part in studio. So I wish I could figure out exactly how they did the exterior again, but yeah, it looked pretty good for the time, and I honestly don't have a mixed opinion. I actually thought the film looked pretty darn good. Of course,
Well, yeah.
I wasn't the reviewer at the time. I mean, from what I understand, Leonard Maltin. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's like a huge like reviewer that has like many different movie books and whatnot. He claimed he really didn't like how dark Casper went. Which honestly, I don't really think it went that dark. You know, went as dark as they said it did. You know,
Yeah, I was actually going to ask what was it that they found so dark and shocking about this movie?
I actually have no idea because the way this played out was just a live action version of the of many of the different theatrical cartoon shorts. To me, I mean, some of them, and I have the Shout Factory set that they put out of the different cartoons of Casper. I actually have no negative comments on this movie whatsoever. But that being said, what did we think about the music? I know the music was done by James Horner, and ultimately, because of the success of this movie, this director went on to being and directing City of Angels, which was based on another movie called Wings of Desire, which Tammy likes that movie and the soundtrack. But in any case, music wise, Little Richard, I like that track. The Casper the Friendly Ghost thing, you did it specifically for this movie. I actually like the music behind this. I wouldn't mind having the soundtrack of Casper just to hear the music. What did you all think of the music? Did you hear the music behind it, or what?
Well, the only song that drew my attention was Casper the Friendly Ghost, but I knew that song from earlier, and yeah, it's a good one. It's yeah, there was that moment with someone impersonating Elvis Presley. That was cool too.
Well, and there was that slow song that Casper, as a human, was coming down to every now and then. Which I'm wondering. I'm wondering what song that was because I've heard that before, but it is a slow song. But in any case, Tammy, what did you think of the music?
I thought it was fine. It was cute. Most of the songs were like cute and fun. So
Okay. So heading on forward to favorite scenes and our favorite characters. This one's tough.
Yes.
Let's start with you, Tammy. What were your favorite characters, and what were your favorite scene or scenes? Can't hear you, Tammy. I don't know why I can't hear you.
because it was on mute because I was doing something when you went to me first.
Ah.
Anyways, my favorite character was Casper, and Favorite scenes? I like it when Casper becomes for real.
Okay. So you don't mind the fact that his backstory, he was a child first and not a ghost.
Well, I I guess you have to think that I've always thought of as that a ghost was something or someone that was living to begin with. So
In the cartoons, it was actually alluded that he was the child of a pair of ghost parents.
okay, well, anyways, I like when he becomes for real.
Okay.
Um, and let's see. I don't know. There was more than one thing that was fun, and there was lots of fun scenes in here. So
Come with me if you want to live.
yeah, so it's kind of hard to just pick one. But if I did that, would I probably have to be it. So
Okay. What about you, Boris? Favorite scenes and their favorite characters?
Well, favorite character Casper, of course. Uh, Although I did also kind of like Kerrigan, even though of course she was bad, but she was bad in hilarious ways. uh, and my favorite scene, probably those scenes with Kerrigan as a ghost, and when she was trying to kill Dibs, and then all those pudams happened. But uh, I did also kind of like the moment of Casper dancing with Cat as a real boy. But okay, I have to say I was a little disappointed that since the goal was for him to be alive again, that it didn't happen after all.
Well, he got
Uh,
a moment.
yeah. And of course, I also liked the moment when everyone saw him as a ghost and freaked out. That was also hilarious.
Okay. And I think one of my favorites is when Dr. Harvey is having that sword fight with the three ghosts. Um, yeah, my favorite character is Casper, but I actually get a kick out of the three ghosts as well. Um, Kerrigan, I could have cared less about, even though she did play her part. Um, I got a kick out of Dips, especially when he went through the Up and Atom machine. I have to talk about that Up and Atom machine too. That uh, I mean, for the time period, it looked like it was a very like well put together machine. You know, if I were absent minded and I didn't shave every day, I wouldn't mind having an automatic thing, making sure that I got ready to every day that I went down and did my work. uh,
Yeah.
but I like the fact that the house had like hidden things and um let's see. I did like the moment where um Clint Eastwood showed up in the mirror uh when they went and possessed Dr. Harvey for a moment, and then you saw Rodney Dangerfield show up. He was a classic comedian at the time, and I think a very young Mel Gibson face showed up in the mirror too. It looked like Mel Gibson for a moment. And then Of course, those weren't the voices. The voice of Fatso was actually the guy who played the comedian who was Everybody Loves Raymond's brother in the Everybody Loves Raymond comedy TV series.
Yeah, yes. Actually, I do remember that TV series. Several years ago, I was watching it occasionally.
Yeah, the big honking dude that was his brother. Well, that was the voice of Fatso
Ah, nice.
back in the day. I unfortunately I don't really know the names names too well of the other two, but I know I've heard those voices before. So I really think they picked the right voices for each character. And
You, Dave,
yeah,
you've been hearing ghost voices.
and the voices
Sorry.
tell me to kill you all by the end of this episode.
I'm sorry.
No, it'll just happen off air. But anyways, yeah, that's the killing joke. But anyways, sorry, I'm getting a little bit too corny here, but yeah, I totally enjoyed this movie, and I've seen it many times. I used to have it on VHS, and I have it on DVD. I believe I have it on a triple pack with the other two movies that were that came out afterwards, but one of them was like a prequel. Casper the Spirits Within which was a direct to video thing. It never had a theatrical thing. And Casper and Wendy are the other two. But in any case, hopefully you have enjoyed our discussion. Like and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the movie, what you thought of our discussion. And I believe we'll be taking a break next week because I'm actually going to be going to a wedding Saturday, and I'm not sure whether I'll be back in time to be on for the show. So,
you can tell those newlyweds, you can quote Cruella de Vil from the live action 101 Dalmatians and say, more good men and women have been lost to marriage than to war, famine, disease, and disaster. Okay, Cruella said that only for women, but I'd say it applies to men as well.
Right. Well, I believe it will be on in 2 weeks, and I believe we'll be covering a movie that Boris here will put forward, right?
I think so, and I'm looking forward to that. Should I say right now which movie it's going to be?
No, we'll keep it a mystery, but I'll ask you about what movie it is, so that we will know what to come on about.
Okay.
So, but we'll see y'all back here in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, we answered those questions that were asked of us.
Yes, we did.
But in any case, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great evening. Everyone say good night.
See you
Good
in
night.
2 weeks. Good night, everyone.
Casper, the friendly ghost.